Hi guys, this is day 3. Welcome back. This is day 3 of trying to code on YouTube. Just putting my content out there, trying to learn some fast API. You know that I've been working on this fast API project, library management project. Especially yesterday, I was building this books.py route. So yesterday, what we have done was we have learned router object, which is which is an object of the class API router, which helps make which helps us make the tributaries that actually add into app, which is in the main, right? App dot include router, user dot router. And yesterday, we were writing books.py, so we are writing different routes that can be in um, you know books. So at the rate router.post, we can add a book as an admin, we can add a book onto the shelf. So we'll take this as the input. All right. We can get a book by giving the book name in the path parameter as a path parameter. So that's a thing. And we can get all the books too. So that is also a thing that we can do. And and we can delete books, right? We can delete books. This one especially, what this does is to this actually takes the copy down essentially. So it takes a copy ID and says I don't want this copy. uh, this one, what this one would do is to this one this one's job is to delete all the copies of a book. Let's say Harry Potter has got like 30 copies. So this is gonna delete all the 30 copies of Harry Potter. How is it gonna do that? So yesterday we wrote this query to fetch all the books, all the copies that have the name that is given from the printed, right? Bname is a query parameter. So bname, all the copies that match with bname are stored in the object book. So book now is a list of things. It's not an object. So you can't just simply delete it. So what I did was I enumerated. I have used I have a, which iterates in in the book object. So I have printed it. I don't have to do it no longer because you know I'm doing it right. So dv.delete so I delete the object and I commit it. I do it for every object that exists in the book. And also at the end of the day, I say that this book has been unlisted. All the Harry Potter books are taken down. That's how I am doing this. So now we got Hail Mary book, copy ID and John resisted. And also let me populate first off a bunch of books just so that you know we associate them with users in borrow history, right? So let me try to create that. What did I set my goal yesterday? I said I need to work on borrow history and also rewrite the users, uh, get get router of the users and other routes. So what I wanted here, especially what I wanted here was to use the response model. I wanted to use the response model, right? What are response models? You guys could ask. Response model. This thing. So I need to edit this title, bro. one viewer who has viewed 29 seconds of my video. To start using the response model, right? I was trying to learn that too, response model. And also, make functions of borrow history just to make sense of borrow history. How can we associate uh, the ideas for 7.6. So these are my ideas that I'm gonna log in right here. I'll also write problems, errors, important errors, things that I will learn today. So what should I first uh, touch? So let me go back to my code and I'll see the models, right? So this is our model. This is our borrow history. Borrow history is a table that we got. The table name is borrow history. And trans ID, we got transaction ID, we got copy ID, we got all of these stuff, right? So the first job of mine is to post some books. I should add some. Let me add a book called Radlo Vita. Nah. Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket. The famous movie and a book. War action is the genre of it. So let me add. Alright. First off, I need to run the server. Okay, the server is up. Let me send some requests. I will add at least 4 copies of it. And you know what I'll do? I will also add a copy of maybe 2 copies of this murder mystery called mystery called Silent Patient, right? See, I have added some copies of Silent Patient, and also let me make another book called, say, what should the other book be? H.C. Verma, something educational. Science and Science and Technology is the genre. I'll add some. So let me see my database. Let's see. All right. These are all the books that we got. Hmm. Nice. We got a good number of books now. That's good. That's good. Right. Borrow history. This, this thing is saying me to increase the bit rate of hopefully it improves by itself. my audio. It's just a suggestion, okay? It seems like it's just a suggestion. We are good, guys. We are good. So, where was I? So, I was trying to make some, you know, some path operations for borrower history. So, how do I do that? First off, let me copy some of those imports, right? I'll copy paste these, and also, and also, what I'll do is I will make the router object, which is an object of API router, and I'll say prefix. No, I don't want to say anything about prefix now. I want to say, still I can do that. Prefix is what? Slash mm, borrow, borrow, borrow is the prefix, and the tags are, this is the tag. Now, router, so, so what we need to do is to make an entry, right? So to actually make an entry, so we need to post on browser history. All right, that makes sense. So what is our goal essentially? Let's go through that. Mm, let me write. Let me do some thinking here. Let's do some thinking. So first off, what are we trying to do with this um, management system? So management system essentially, what it does is it is a place where we have books, bunch of books. So they're all the books. And we are supposed to manage the, what we are supposed to manage is when a customer is supposed to um, give us the book, right? If he has taken any or not. First off, we need to add users, and after adding users, when we get those users back, what we need is info. What info? Not just his details, personal details. What we need is his history, borrow history, right? His history of uh, taking all of these, you know, books and things. So, uh, so at when we say when we say we need to get users, we need to get not just the users. We need to do so many improvements in like when getting the users back. All right. So first thing that I'm gonna do is first off, I will write borrow history. I will what I'll do is I'll make a path operation that actually makes a row in the borrow history table. And after that, I will go back to user and I'll try to make a decision. What is the decision? Decision of either adding a new type of get, mm, either adding a new type of get where um, it's not just that, it's not just users, it's users slash fine, maybe something like that. Or you can just say ki I can change the response schema of get. I can change the response schema of get, and it will give us all of those details that we want. So what would be something that is really important while the library management? We would definitely lead whether a user, we would want to know all the books that a user has, right? All the books that a user has, all books a user has. So what do we want to know? Where should I write this though? Should I should write right here, outline of how I'm building this. The thing is, one is improved as an user. Okay, okay. basic forms of path operation. After making basic forms of path operation, we need to decide whether how the get of user i.e. student return the fine and let me just copy the whole thing and actually paste it in log file. Ideas for this is this. This is an actually idea, right? So this idea, what this idea says is after making the path operations, I need to write some kind of solution syntax. What could be a solution to it? So the thing that I'm thinking here is to add fine, a field called fine, when returning the user. So what I'm trying to say is, let's go back. Right? Let's go back. Let's go here. And we'll see that we go to user, and if we see the get of it, what happens is you either give a name and a phone number or you don't. If you don't give, we'll get all the users. If you give a name and a phone number, what you will get is simply the row of it. So I don't want that. I wanted to behave in a certain way. I wanted to give me back a response model. So um, I guess we have to go through it. But from the things that I remember, response model is defined right here, right? Response model. And I'll say it comes back from schema, something like that. So we will, try to update. And what we'll do is, in the design perspective, what I want here is to also show if he has any fine right now, if he is supposed to give me any fine or not. I'm just thinking, see if that would happen. Chalo. And we should just stop talking and like, start making some path operations. So at the rate router dot post, right? At the rate router dot post. What is the route that we're trying to, yeah, that, and mm, that is the decorator syntax, and I'll define mm, transaction transaction. So we'll write a function called transaction, which actually takes in, what should it take in, by the way, transaction. So trans ID is generated by the table itself. Copy ID. Do we need to take in the copy ID? Yeah, I guess. So we need to enter the copy that someone is taking and the user ID who is taking it. And I don't think we need to fill all of these, right? Length on is automatically filled. And before is something that I guess we have to fill. Yeah, before is something that we have to fill. what before actually conveys is when should we return the book, right? When should we return the book? So for suppose, let's just say 15 days after, we have a time period of 15 days, and in those 15 days the user can keep the book, and after that he has to be returning the book. 15 days is maximum that someone can, uh, or else, yeah, 15 days is something that on a, our library should be like that. So we have a constant mm, window. But let's just say, mm, okay, we'll actually change it. We'll actually make it like a minute or something like that, just so that we see the thing work, right? Chalo. So where was I? Yes. So what it takes is the copy ID, the user ID, and before. Or maybe what I can do is, all right, okay. No, end of sound dot session. So db dot session is what, like, db dot session depends on get db, and also this is not the function call. We should just write the reference of it for some reason, for some weird reason, which I have to learn today, by the way. So definition get transaction takes in db as input, and also it also should take the uh, CID. So what should I keep it as? I think I should keep it as query parameters, right? That would be really nice. CID is the copy ID, which is an int, and UID, which is user ID, is also an int. That's it, man. I think we are good to go. With that, what I want to do is to, mm, do I need to unpack anything? I don't think really, because we are getting the objects themselves right here, right? So what I need to write here is, uh, row is an object uh, that is created, the SQLAlchemy object, uh, which actually is created like that. Models dot borrow history takes in, um, what, how should I write this? Copy ID, so wrong. Where am I? Can I just write it like this? Copy ID is this. And what are all the different attributes, bro? Can't I see them? UID, user ID. Let me see. So user ID is something, it's an object. So I'll copy paste it. User ID is UID. And what? Hmm. And what should I write? User ID is that, copy ID is this. Hmm. And something that I need to do is before, yeah. When should I return it before? I should return it 1 minute after the 1 minute after, uh, whatever the length on becomes, right? Whatever length on becomes, I'm gonna add a minute after it, or maybe 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, he should be returning it, or else the fine gets increased. for every minute. That's what I want to do, right? Let's see. First off, I have done it before. In the the project that I mentioned usually, I have done it before using a tutorial. So let's see. Have I written something like that? Where must have I written it? Was it in the post? Where did I do it though? Was it in models? Hello, let's ask ChatGPT. Get to know from ChatGPT. Where is ChatGPT? Hey, chat. I was trying to make row object for an ORM table, and one of the fields fields is before. Let me explain the whole thing before, and I want it to work in a certain way. Sorry, where it should be 30 seconds more than another attribute is in the table called length on, and this is automatically you know initial part. So I is it automatically initialized? By the way, let's see. Length on. Length on is something server default, is that right? Okay. So length on is automatically initialized with default timestamp. Then before cannot directly reference length on in the column definition because SQLAlchemy evaluates column defaults independently. Okay, I can't do that. Let Postgres calculate it. Best if with purely database logic. All right, I can do that, but I would definitely need to delete the table again, bro. That would be really bad. For example, this won't work that way. All right. Set it in your Python code before inserting. Time delta seconds is equal to 30. Can I do that? Oh, that. Okay, that is what I was doing, right? But I have this doubt of, do I need to mention length on here? Don't we don't the Okay, set it in your Python code before insert. Don't the database do it itself? So okay, now I get it. So doing this would make sense now. All right. So let me write it in my Obsidian. Problems that I faced. Problem. One of the problems that I faced was while making the borrow array, borrow post method. I was supposed to initialize the before 30 seconds ahead ahead of Lenton, but it would be wrong if I did Lenton plus 30 seconds as Lenton before the insert that the right is 0. Solution for this would be initialize the length on this. So we'll initialize length on like this. To show you the code. This, right? This is how I would do it. I mean, it makes sense that you can't really have so now is date time dot now dot udc. This is something that is actually important, right? So if borrow history, there it is, and I'll say now is that I want to import something from date time, from where do we get the date time thing from? Okay, check my model. From date time import this. All right. Okay. So now that we have imported, now is this. Let's say this as entry. And length on is now, and before is now plus time delta. Time delta क्या है? Time delta, what is the time delta? That seconds is equal to 30. Seconds is equal to, let's say, 45. So that is the time one has to. Hi, why is it saying the audio bitrate is too low? Has it improved? Did we improve anything? Hopefully I have improved something. Let's see. Let's go with this now, huh? So we have made the table entry. Now that is our table entry, right? I guess we have covered all of them. Lent on we have covered, we have covered before, and written on is something that should be none. By default, it should be none, right? By default, it should be none. So I guess we are good. Borrow history. That is so db dot add entry and db dot commit this and db refresh entry and maybe return entry, right? I want you to return it. So let's go and let's hit the server. Let's make a new endpoint. Let us do that right here, and this should be of type post, and also alright, here's the new endpoint. This is not users, by the way. This is this is borrow. This is where I have to hit. And also, do I need to send anything? Yeah, I definitely need to send something. Query parameters should be something like CID. Should be, what should the copy ID be? What should I lend? What does this guy wanna lend? So let's go to the database and we'll see what someone wants. HC Verma, and the copy ID of it is 17. So the copy ID is 17, and the UID is what? User ID is who wants it. So let's see who wants this. Prabhas wants HC Verma, so the user ID is 4. 4. Now let's send. Let's see. Details not found. 404. Why is it throwing me a 404? Okay, it did. 404 means that it didn't really connect with the route. So yesterday that I've seen ChatGPT said you can do it. Not found. Alright. Let me take the prefix out first off, because this has been a bad thing. Borrow, right? And now I hit the server again. Still gives me a 404. Huh. Why? Type string. No. Type integer, right? I want it to be an integer. And now I take this off. Again. UID and CID, they match at least. Why is it giving me a 404? I don't like 404s. Let's see. Let's ask GPT. Why a 404? Oh my god. 404 is in FastAPI. Is the root actually borrow? Look at your decorator. Okay, I did not include. God damn it. Same mistakes again and again. Apt out include router. By the way, I didn't really get that from ChatGPT. It just struck my mind. So I mean, I don't think it's gonna replace me. Borrow history, dot router, right? We got that. Got that covered, brother. What? What is this saying, bro? Tonight, borrow is the route, bro. हाँ नहीं नहीं borrow history. Where am I doing it wrong? Ah. Self CRUD tags dot copy str object has no attribute copy. When did I say anything close to copy, bro? Why are you playing with me? Routers dot post slash borrow something is getting effed up right there. Is there something? Is there a rule that the file name and the route name should be same? Something like that. Just ask GPT, bro. I must switch GPT right here. Is there a rule that the file name and router name be same? No, doesn't care about file name at all. Alright. Alright. So I need to include library router is something that I need to include. This guy says. Bro, how am I include? So what I'm trying to do is browser history में जो router है वो मैं include कर रहा हूँ. So this borrow history में जो router है, this is the router that is in borrow history. So am I doing anything wrong here? Let's just check it. Why am I getting that? What do you mean that? Oh my god, the tags must be a list of things it seems. Bro, what the hell? I don't even know why tags are used, bro. I mean, a list of strings, fuck off. Ah. Alright. This actually this clears the doubt. Doesn't it? Alright, let me send the request again. We'll check. This time hopefully. There we go. We have made our first transaction. We have definitely made our first transaction. And all right. Now we have made our transaction. So it should another idea is while making borrow post method so while making the borrow post method, we be able should not be able we should not be able to make another transaction with same copy ID right, at least with same copy ID, unless the copy is like returned we can't um, do the same copy ID. All right, so, so first off we have made the post, and there is a lot of things, to be honest. So let's write this down first. So what we are trying to do is make the transactions for borrow history, right? Borrow history, and the first function that we have made is post. And one of the things that I see in post is the ability to send the request again, and it will definitely be accepted, right? That means that there is a copy with an ID 17, and there is a user called 4, and before him returning the book, the availability of the book isn't possible, right? There is no availability of the book because this guy has taken it. Someone has the book. So for if so 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 there should actually be another function in books too. I mean, the get method in books should also get a change, right? So you can, so the get to see all the books, there is a get to see all the books, there is a get to see a particular book with a particular name, and there should be a get that should actually say the availability, at least maybe merge it right here. I mean, with a particular book, I mean with a particular copy ID, it should also display the availability, whether it's available or not. So for that, what do we need to do? For that, what I should do is to make a bunch of transactions. First of all, I need to make a bunch of transactions, and let's just check the transaction table. Borrow history, I need to view this, all rows, and we'll see our first. Yeah, returned on is null, right? So no one has returned it before. I mean, no one has returned it. So I have to write a bunch of functions first off. I'll be right back. I wanna end this stream or maybe take a break, right? I wanna take a break. After that, I am back. Yes, I'm back. So where was I? So while I was eating, I had this idea. I mean, more like a doubt. So, I have this borrow function that takes the book, right? Um, and I have made a new route for it, but should I keep the route under users, like users slash borrow? More of an API design question than I have a FastAPI question, of course. Think about what the resource actually is. Slash borrow, meaning create a borrow transaction. This is perfectly reasonable because mm, borrow transaction is its own resource. You already have a table this, and so you're creating a row in that table under nest under users, being users for borrows a book. This is also reasonable because borrowing an action performed by the user. Option 3, REST style. So you want it to be more restful. So post slash borrow. This is probably more good in the long term. So for a library, the route should be organized like this, like get. Okay, all right, that makes sense. So what I was trying to get to was this, right? Just a second, I'll go. I am back. So what I was trying to do, what I was trying to what I was trying to get to was this key. As borrowing is done by the users, why can't I write it like this? Key users slash borrow. But I mean, both of them are correct according to ChatGPT, but ChatGPT would recommend to do it in this way, so I would just carry on, like just like that. So, alright, that makes sense. So borrow is like borrow history thing. So to borrow a book, the user needs to give me the CID and UID, right? And this, and before that, you know, before making the transaction, one has to check whether the CID is available or not. Whether the copy is available or not should be checked first. So let me write that. One has to check the availability of the book. So how do we check the availability of the book? So what we have to do is what we have to do is in borrow history table you got returned, right? We got this attribute called return on. So first off, you have to go to the borrow transaction table and fetch all the records of CID, I guess. Fetch the, not all of them, fetch the latest record of CID. we need the latest record of CID, cause like the latest state of CID is what we are we are interested in. Cause let's say someone took this book someone took this book today and they have written it back, and someone else took it and they have written it back. So someone took took returned took returned, so returned. So what to check the availability, we have to see the right now, right? I mean, you have to check the availability right now, whether it is present now or not. So we have to get the latest record of the CID. Now how do we do it? Uh, I think I have to take the help of ChatGPT here, cause I can write filter. Which is like equivalent to where. But how do I get the latest record of something? Sorry. How do I get the latest record of something? चलो कोई बात नहीं. How do I get the latest record? How did we get it in SQL? What was the SQL thing that we were doing? Select star from where. Okay, now I get it. We can do it like this, right? We can write dot filter where the CID matches. We will get all the records that match the CID, and also with that another condition. The condition is we have to get only one record. Dot first we have to get only one record, and also we'll write another condition that maybe gets the whole gets the matching records, and arranges it by time in a descending order. Then we can do dot first. So how do we apply descending order? How do you get desk in OR language? Pardon me burping. In SQL ORM, desk is represented by dot desk. All right, what is that? Okay, you can write order by and dot all. Okay, you can do something like that. Order by is just a function, and you can write something like that. Okay, that makes sense. Order by. I need to jot this down, man. Do we have a file name SQL ORM somewhere? Connecting database, factory classes, database design, connecting database, factory classes, how building this. Of course, I've been through SQL actually, the whole of it. But let me add another file and say SQL ORM bay. SQL ORM bay. Array, not K. Bay. In this, I would like to include all the things that SQL ORM does, right? The first thing that we can do in SQL ORM is db.query db.query. This is equivalent to select. Alright, db.query dot filter filters the filter acts like a where, and conditions are written more than one conditions are written. This db.query dot filter c1, c2, c3, and another thing, that I need to write is something that I've just learned. db.query dot filter. Alright, dot filter is something that I can write it like that, and dot order by is also a function, and you can use desk or sec, ascending or descending order. For descending and ascending, that raises a question, how about limit and offset, also distinct SQL ORM ka dot limit, you can do that. Dot limit is a thing. Okay, these are basically, they actually become methods here. Okay, that makes sense. Coming back to our major problem, so CID is int, UID is int, DB is, we have DB. So what we need, one has to check the availability of book. For someone to check the availability of book, I need to get the latest CID transaction, right? So let me write the query latest. I'll call it latest, and db.query is a method that actually works on models dot borrow history, and what I want to do is filter. So this basically translates to where models dot borrow history dot copy ID is equal to the CID that we have received. So that should be that, and also I wanna order underscore by desk order underscore by length on. So descending order, and length on is okay. Length on comes from models models dot borrow history length on. Hey, that S is not defined. How can you say that? I mean, you can't betray ChatGPT, man. ChatGPT is the greatest thing that has seen the face of Earth. So, back off, buddy. ChatGPT knows better. Okay, you do it like this. Start length on. So this is not a function that takes in. It's more of an attribute, is it? No, it's a method. It's a method only, but you say it like this. Test. So and also dot limit. How do I? Dot limit should only give me one, or else there is no need for it. Something like that. And I shall name this as Q and this one as latest, right? Latest is Q dot Q dot first, the first thing that actually touches it. All right, good. That makes sense. So what is this gonna give me? This is if this is none. So if there isn't any, if this is none, only then you have to add an entry. If it's not none, if there exists a book with the CID, oh wait a second, and not just that, not just the CID being available, and returned on should be models dot borrow history dot returned on. This should be what? This should be null, I guess. Should I say is none? Can I say something like that? Because you don't know what you is this correct syntax? Not quite. Written down is an SQLAlchemy. That's the thing. That's what I was saying. SQLAlchemy is a little different from normal Python. So I can't just say that. I can say, which I would have rather, or something compelled me to write is. At least I've learned something, right? Right. So return on is none. So the return on should be none. None. Wait a second. Return on shouldn't be none. If return on is none, what does that mean? Return on, that means it hasn't been returned. The copy is still associated with the user. So that's a bad thing, right? That's something that you shouldn't be dealing with. What does this give me? This give me CID if CID is available. So the borrow history, if it's and if it's returned and the okay, another logic that came into my mind is we have checked if CID is available in the transaction thing, right? First off, you know what I have to do? Yeah, one has to check the availability of book itself, right? So something like if the CID actually is in the table books table, if there is a CID in the books table, then you do this, or else you just say ki there isn't a book. So if one has to check the availability of the book, all right. Q, let's name this q1. I'll write q db.query. All right, this is fun. Models dot I'm sorry, models dot books, models dot books, right? Models dot books filter, models dot books filter, where models dot books models dot books dot c copy id is CID. So we need a copy. We need a copy that matches with our copy ID, and I need the book. Is this copy? Let's say copy is this q dot first. Okay, that makes sense. If copy is none, let's say there isn't a copy, that's CID. So the you should read as an exception. There is no another word for it. Raise HTTP exception. mm, mm, what should the HTTP exception be? Raise HTTP exception. What does it actually take? It takes the status code, the status code, status dot, what should I go for? 404, right? 404 not found, and should say detail. In detail it should say, hey, there isn't a copy with that ID. There isn't a copy with that ID. That should be the thing. If there is a copy with that ID, I need to see whether it's available or not. So if there is a copy, I need to check if it's available, right? That makes sense. db.query models borrow history. Models borrow history dot filter. So what this thing is doing, what this is doing, this thing is doing. So this takes in models or browser history, borrow history, and checks and gets us the entries that match with the copy ID, CID that we have given, and also checks alright, one sec, just a second. I guess we can write it right here, right? The condition key written on is not null. Matlab, written on, there has to be something that in the written on field. If there is something that is there is in the written on field, the name matches, and then we order by the date, length on date, in descending order. So and then we'll get the first one. So the first one essentially becomes the copy with something in the written on column, that is the latest one. Okay, that makes sense. All right, that makes sense. So if the copy if the if latest I'm, I'm so sorry, my brain is fogging. mm, if written on is none, what does that mean? mm, that means ki it has been written, it has been written. So um, if this has been returned, if latest is none, that means it hasn't been returned yet. All right, if it hasn't been returned yet, then I want you to do all this, right? Then I want you to uh, then you can go ahead with the whole thing that you are doing, right? Then you can definitely Debra, ah, ah, నాన్న లేనప్పుడు వస్తావా? వినబడట్లా నీకు? ఏంటి? ఏమైంది చెప్పరా? ఓకే. Bro, what the hell am I doing? I should write this a little more better, bro. With written down is not none. What do you mean by that? Bro, let me make this written down as none. If the written down is none, okay, that means that it is not available. This thing is not available. Not available. If okay, let's go through the code again. I mean, I've written a little. It's not that big of a deal. See, this is I have written a little additional functionality to post, right? To make a transaction, one has to check the availability of book. Before the availability itself, I need to check whether the book exists or not, right? So that's what I am doing. That is the thing that I am doing here. So CID is matched and checked whether if it exists, right? db.query models.books, and I see whether it exists or not. If it does exist, if the copy does exist, then I go to the browser history table. What do I do in browser history table? I will first get to that copy, and then I'll see whether the written down is none, um, and I'll order it by the time, right? the latest, so we'll get the latest entry of CID, and the CID, and the return on should be what the return on should be null. So that means the latest, this object is not available, this object is not available. So if this, if there isn't an object like this, if this turns out to be none, that means that it is available, so we can associate with to a user UID. If it does exist, if there is a latest object that is not available, if if there is a latest copy that is not available, that is actually that has the returned on value none, then you say already taken by someone else. All right, that makes sense. Let's just fit the yeah, let me save this first off. Borrow a book, and let's save. CID is this. So if I send this, let me check the table first off. Let me check the table. So this hasn't been returned, so this is null, right? The return on is null. If I were to hit this, this should say something like, okay, it hasn't, it has, someone has taken this before. Even the user 4 can't take this. Let's, yes, thank God, already taken by someone else. Great. If I change the UID, let's say to 6, already taken, bro, please, you can't do it, it's already taken. All right, what the hell, invalid syntax, forgot, perhaps forgot a comma. Where, brother, where? Keyboard interrupt, sorry, the hell, చెప్పరా కింద గీసరమంటావా? Yes, I am back. Hi, guys. Hello, guys. I am back. So, what was I doing? This, right? The copy is not available. Alright. Let's say copy number 16. And I'll do it, add it to. Alright. This is our transaction. There you go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see the table. Now these are associated. Bro, this is so, kind of easy, right? And also, one of the things that I wanted to do was the the fine aspect of it. So I'll go back to users and I'll see if I can add the response model. The way that I'm gonna output the get user path function. So let's get to ChatGPT again. I wanna or else I'll see my previous code, right? I have my previous code somewhere in that there is the response model schemas that post. This is the path parameter, all right. Schemas dot post. The question here, say I have used the response model. Will it add new things to the object of ORM I return, or just make it force it to its type? That is the doubt. Key whether I get additional things or am I losing things. So the response model does not modify your ORM object. All right, that makes sense, of course. It is a really bad way of putting the question, but it's alright. I'll get the relevant data from it. Alright. Suppose I got that. Alright. And what happens is FastAPI gets the ORM object, pydantic reads it. The pydantic creates a new user out object. FastAPI serializes it. Alright. ID and password. So it's gonna give the password isn't deleted or changed. It's simply not included in the response. Okay, it's simply not included in the response. Alright, that makes sense. Think of it as return user out dot model validate user happening behind the scenes. It also acts like a validator slash filter if your ORM has extra fields. Hey, what if I wanna add a field and return because it's a JSON? I guess I can simply add. Oh ho, you can do it like this. Oh, that makes sense. Or I can just unpack the dictionary and add this. Okay, that makes sense too. Okay, that's great. That's good. So let me get back to my code and I'll see what I'm gonna change here. So I want this to be response model is schemas dot output, or like output. Do I have that schemas dot output? User input. I don't really have user output. I mean, I used to have it. I have no. I don't know why I have deleted it. User output, right? Output. This should, you know what? This should inherit from user input. User input should inherit from that, and I'm gonna say fine is a integer that it should return, and class config. Okay, config from underscore attributes true. All right, I'll go back to what? Should I go back to the code again? No. I should go back to ChatGPT and I'll ask what is class. What was the config? Why do we need it? Pydantic, you have probably received that. Yeah, ORM mode to Pydantic version 2. What do they do? Normally Pydantic accepts a dictionary, but when you return an ORM object, it's not a dictionary, it's an SQLAlchemy object. Without this, Pydantic doesn't know how to read users.id, users.name from its object attribute. So, or example, ORM object this, and this is the schema user out, and return user. If I return the user, because Pydantic reads the attributes. When you return the user without it may raise a validation error, because Pydantic is expecting something dictionary like. Oh, that is the reason. Did I write this in schemas? Schemas, that's all. And class config true. Enables the reading of attributes from the object, ORM object. From the ORM object you can read the thing. Okay, I get that too. Alright, book input, output, user output. We had user output. Which is true. I'll get to my I'll get to my users, and then I'll see. Yeah, just that. User output. Let me change the name of this. Where are the users? Here are the users. This. So what are we doing here? So we are returning the user. I mean, if the user exists, then we are returning the user. But I want to not just return the user. I want to write another query, tb.query models dot borrow history. They should work on that. And you know what I have to do? I need to what if the guy has multiple violations? That is a problem, right? That is not actually a problem, to be honest. If the guy has multiple violations, the only thing that that has to be shown there is okay, fine, if he has to pay fines or not. We will write another function for violations and stuff. We will write another function for violations and stuff, so that makes sense now, right? So what I'll do here is just add all the violations, all the fines that are accumulated by the violations. So what I need to do is to filter all the transactions what if he has paid for those fines? That is the question too, right? What if the guy has paid for those fines, and I can't just add up all the violations that he has done so far, and you know, that doesn't make sense. Do I need to make another table? Let's see, let's think about this. This is an actually interesting thing, right? Let's grab this. Do I need to make another table? The thing here is I need to keep a track, I need to store or keep a track of fines that users have. So a fine table can be there, matlab okay, we can actually associate, you know what we can associate? We can associate we can just associate transactions. We can associate transactions with trans ID with the fine, right? Fine and paid or not is a thing. Paid or not is a thing. Or not. All right, that makes sense. So what I want this guy to so what I want is, if a user comes in and says, okay, I want to check all the fines that I've accumulated so far, then okay, that makes sense. Nice. Okay, let's slow this down, and I'll see if I could explain this a little better. So the idea here is to track the fines of a user, right? Let's say you got a user. And we have different types of tables. We got borrow history, something that is very important, and something that is very important, right? And in borrow history we got lent on and before, right? From this we can say before and returned on, right? And fine can be calculated by returned on minus lent minus returned on minus before, right? Before it should have been returned at this date, but this guy has returned on this date. So the fine is calculated on this what do you say, this aspect, right? On this variable, on this aspect of it. All right. So how are we gonna add fines? Do I need to make a table? What I thought was fines can be just simply calculated by the amount of violations that this guy has, right? But cancel. But that wouldn't make any sense. Why wouldn't it? So I thought we can just add fine here. For every user I can associate a fine. If he is like violating something. But that would be a problem. This would lead to a problem. This would lead to a problem. Problem as problem as you can't really problem as you can't say if he paid or not. If he paid or not, we would never decide. We would never know if a user has paid or not. If we are just showing the aggregates of the mistakes or fines that has accumulated. So that doesn't make sense. So what I am thinking is to make a fine table here, and every violated transaction is in this. So a trans ID and the fine. So for every transaction that has for every these are this should be like this. For every transaction ID, for every transaction ID we need for every transaction ID we would need not for every transaction, but some of the transactions can accumulate to fines, right? Some of the transactions can be mapped to fines. So that's the reason I'm thinking of including the trans ID and the fine, right? Including the trans ID and the fine, right? That kind of makes sense, doesn't that? We are associating a transaction and just find that this has got. So we'll write it like this, and we'll store all of this. And just if we were to if we were to for a user, if we were to know the fine that he has to pay, fine that he has to pay, there also has to be an attribute called paid or not, which actually makes sure that we have paid the fine. Alright, the transaction ID, the fine, the boolean that actually tells you whether you have paid the fine or not. Okay, so let me run this. Right, there comes a user called Mahesh Babu, and one has to know whether he has a fine or not. So for that, we will see the fine table. In fine table, you know what we'll do? We'll actually we will actually we can do one thing. The one thing we can do here is this. From user name Mahesh Babu, we can get all the transactions that he has done so far. All the transactions that he has done so far, and all the transactions. But the problem is all the transactions. We'll get all trans IDs, and we will see how many of them are in the fine table, the violation table, and how many of them are paid, how many of them are unpaid. I need someone to bounce this idea with. Alright, hear me out carefully. Think. So I was thinking of adding a new table called fine, cause cause as a library query system, I wanna store I wanna make sure that books are returned before a date in the borrow history table we got before, and if it's more than that, we get to collect fines. You might say you don't need a fine table, but there is a problem. If I were to come and ask, if I were to come and ask to give the fine to be paid by a user, say Mahesh, who has multiple violations, yet paid some them, so can't I actually think you are thinking about this the right way. The key is fine just a calculated value from the borrow record, or is it a real business entity in its life cycle? In your case, it sounds like an entity. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because you can't just calculate from a borrow record, right? I mean, you can if we add more of the columns to it. Like we have to add a column called fine, and we have to add whether it's paid or not. Only then we can do it. Then we can do it. How about we add? How about we add fine and paid or not to the borrow record itself. How would that? You can, but I think about how far you want to take this project. If you add it to borrow history, this is simple, right? When a book is returned late, then the user pays. Yeah, for a college project or portfolio project, this is completely acceptable. The problem appears later. What if the fine is 100 but user pays 50 today and 50 next week? Now boolean paid isn't enough. But yeah, I mean, this is out of my scope, bro. What are you talking? what if the library waives the fee 20%? What if you want to receive recipient history? So you're basically reinventing a fine slash payment table. What are doing your shows? Since you're building a library API to learn backend design and potential show interviews, keep it in the borrow state for now. Maybe later, maybe of course this just keeps your schema simple, and let's focus on your without getting lost in accounting. A middle ground design would be this. We can refactor into a fine table without hey, what I am thinking. Hey, thanks for that, it's really helpful, but I wanna make the table pause. I don't want to delete my borrow history and make it again. Alright, I have so much to fucking add to the obsidian, bro. Block 5. Alright, problems. And another idea is the find table. It seems like we would need at least a new columns in borrow history table. Fine, they are not just to, it seems like we definitely at least need we would at least need new columns in borrow table. Fine, paid or not, just to excuse me. Just to display a fine a user computer gets. I don't really wanna command. Find table is an idea that that is really important here. It's already been 2:34, guys. I think I need to take a break. I'm sleepy, and maybe after an hour I'll come back and do the remaining work. I think I'll add a new table called fine mostly, and I'll try to, cause 3 tables is not that much fun. 4 tables is fun, so we'll see. So hopefully I will write that, and I'll actually complete with all the that I was trying to do, displaying fine, and maybe make a little changes in the path operations that we have written so far. And after that, mm, tomorrow is authentication, I guess. Yeah, I've written too much code. From tomorrow I should start. Yes, so guys, bye.